When you hear the glass break, you know what time it is. What up, world? Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Command, a DND football podcast. We're back with another episode. Of course, you have your host, Darian D.H. Williams, and you have my partner in crime, my co-host, Dee Middy. Dee Middy, what's up, bro?
Feeling good, feeling great. How you been doing, King? It's been
Hey,
a
man,
minute.
yeah, it's been a minute, man. You know, the channel is thriving. We got product, we got shows and stuff going on, but we haven't linked back up in a minute. But it's good, man. How you, dog?
Hey man, we gotta keep going at this content thing, man. I love the fact that you and Rio been hooking up, man. You've been doing your thing behind the scenes, man. So me, I've been doing good, but I've been loving how you been making this breaking command thing. Keep this train going, brother.
Hey, man. Well, I appreciate that, brother. And we want to welcome all the new visitors to the page. Yeah, come on in. Come on in. Yeah, you're here. And while you're here, if you are here for the first time, of course, make sure you like and subscribe to the YouTube page, youtube.com/Breaking Command Pod. And then go on X and follow Breaking Command Pod on there. And of course, you are a friend of the show, so we appreciate you. And if you feel so inclined to do so, you can leave us a 5-star review anywhere, and you could get your 5 seconds of fame. That's it. That's all. Now, Dee Middy, 7-4 ball club. Your Washington Commanders are 2 tough losses back to back against the Steelers and Eagles, respectively. But we're still in the driver's seat, still control our own destiny. And now it is Dallas week. With Dallas 3-7, it may not mean as much anymore, but it still is Dallas week. And to discuss Dallas week, I said, you know what, man, I need to go through the Rolodex, man. We've had some big time guests on the show, and I said I need to find another big time guest, somebody that knows about this Commanders Cowboys rivalry, somebody that speaks to it on a regular basis, somebody that hosts afternoon radios on ESPN Radio 94.1 and the 757, somebody that does the game day pre and post game show on Big 100 with the Commanders, somebody that gets to talk to Fred Smoot and listen to him clown and joke every time he's on the air. Somebody who does ODU men's basketball play-by-play. I said I need to go down to the 757 and I need to grab my guy, Scott Jackson. So we want to welcome Scott Jackson to the program. Scotty Jackson, my man. What's up, Scott? How you feel, bro?
Great, man. Good to be on with you guys. Excited for visiting you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Scott, we're so glad. We've been trying to do this for a couple weeks now, and things ain't been working out, but we here. We got you on the show. We got you on the show for one of the most could people say the most important game of the season? I guess every game is the most important game of the season, right?
Yeah. I feel like it is because a little bit of adversity, right? Real first adversity this team's had this year, 2 straight losses in a short period of time. Offense looks like it might have taken a step back Thursday night. Concerns about the quarterback's health, all these things. So, yeah, I feel like this is a big game no matter what's going on with the Cowboys situation. And as you guys know, and I know it's a cliche, but honestly, with this rivalry, you do throw the records out the window, and it sometimes doesn't matter. I'm still haunted by 1989, being in college, talking trash to Cowboys fans. They're winless, and the one freaking game they win is against the Washington Redskins. It's still like soul crushing to think that Jimmy Johnson got his first win against us. It makes me sick to my stomach still.
Definitely.
Awful. Of course it does. And Scott, we're going to get into all the particulars of the game and talk about the Commander season to this point. Before we do, man, I want to make sure you guys are following Jackson Sports on X, man, for the latest and greatest of info, news, and notes. And of course, man, that's how we hooked up. So go ahead and follow Scott, man. You can talk to him and, you can maybe get your questions in early for the post-game show because you be on there with Smoot. Smoot don't let you get a word in edgewise sometime, I know. But make sure y'all follow Scott on X. Dee Middy, go ahead, man.
He's a lot of fun, man. He's a lot of fun. Fred Smoot, dude. Good dude.
No, I was going to just kind of kick off Dallas week with a question for Scott, man, if you don't mind. As far as I know, you was talking about the Jimmy Johnson win, but was there really a moment that kind of like stood out for you these past few years where, the Washington Dallas rivalry, like it kind of, not necessarily like left a bad taste in your mouth, but it was, it was a lasting memory. What was one of those other lasting memories outside of that Jimmy Johnson win?
Well, that was a bad one. But even go older back. You think of that strike year or the '87 season when they had the scabs playing, with the replacement players. Washington went down with a bunch of guys who, the next day were going to be back out, off the team. They went on Monday Night Football against the Cowboys team. They had Tony Dorsett and a lot of their regulars, Randy White, had crossed the picket line and beat them. That was incredible. Tony Robinson, at quarterback. that season. Of course, that was the year Doug Williams went on to win Super Bowl 22. That one always will be a memory. Of course, the Darryl Green, play, running down Tony Dorsett, his rookie season was incredible. That they lost that game by a point, but there's been a lot of great games. And obviously the Sean Taylor, return after the block field goal always gets talked about. That was a great one. Santana Moss on a night where honestly I was ready to go to bed. I'm not going to lie to you guys. I was like ready to get out. I'm like, this game's going nowhere. This offense stinks. Mark Brunell didn't look like he could throw the ball more than 15 yards at that point in his life. And then to hit those 2 bombs to Moss was incredible. Those were a lot of fun. But, look, even like 2 seasons ago or 3 seasons ago, I guess now, right? Sam Howell, the kind of a meaningless game for the Commanders, but Dallas still had something right. That was a fun game. I mean, that was good to see. That was a lot of fun. A tough win, even though it didn't necessarily mean anything at the time for Washington in terms of postseason, but it felt good just to go out beating Dallas in the last possible game. Even in 2020, that weird COVID year when they smashed the Cowboys on Thanksgiving Day down there, that was fun. Obviously 2012 RG3 year when they were running it up. I'm still mad at D'Angelo Hall for not scoring that cheap touchdown at the end, though. Man, he took the knee. I was like, just keep running on the onside kick. But yeah, those games all stand out as really good ones over the years. But yeah, there's been so many of them, and you know how it goes. It's like kind of up and down. Like the Commanders were up, they were down, or the Redskins were up, they were down, and vice versa. The best years are when they're both up. We're not going to get that this year, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to enjoy hopefully sweeping them. If it happens, I'll enjoy it. And I'm also not, I'm also not silly, enough to think that they're just going to be easy games either. I mean, there's a lot of knowledge on both sides of the, sidelines from Dan Quinn's side, and the Commander side on that staff, and vice versa. They'll know him too. So I think it makes it for an interesting matchup this weekend. And I do think Dallas is going to win again this year at some point. I'm obviously not going to make the playoffs, but they're going to at least win a few more games down the stretch here.
Yeah, no, for sure. And Scott, man, you've seen a lot of the team, being able to cover the team up close. So, you've seen it all. You know what I'm saying? Seen most of these things. One thing we haven't seen, as we move up to the current date, one thing we haven't seen is a team play like this season, 7-4. Give me your initial thoughts, because I mean, we haven't talked, of course, at any point in time this season. So your initial thoughts on how the Commanders have performed up until this point with Jaden Daniels and with being 7-4 at this point. And also, Scott, did you have them being this good right now this season?
I thought this would be like, best case scenario season was 7, 8, 9 wins tops. I didn't think double digits. Obviously, I think that now where they are with the start they've had. And after week 1, I wasn't feeling too great. I was like, ooh, boy, this looks like this is going to take a while. But, the buildup has been really cool to see them stack it up, and really up until the last couple of weeks. And, they've had some hiccups along the way with the offense. I mean, it wasn't a great day against the Bears either, and obviously, to be able to get that on the Hail Mary was insane in that football game. But, like stepping 2 weeks away now from that Steelers loss and seeing how the Ravens couldn't do much of anything, I was like, well, maybe that game wasn't all that horrible after all, putting 27 up against Pittsburgh, even if they spotted you, in the red zone with that fake punt that they blew. But, I think overall, like, they're way ahead of schedule. And I know, like, because of the fast start, they've had a lot of the fan base wants to fast forward and say, all right, we're all in this year. We're Super Bowl contenders and all this stuff. I do think there's a difference between where the Commanders are and where, say, the Lions are, and even where the Eagles are in the NFC at this point. And then if you flip it to the AFC side, obviously where Pittsburgh and Baltimore, reside, and the Chiefs and the Bills. I think there's a difference there. Does it mean they got in the playoffs and they're healthy, they can't beat teams and be competitive and maybe cause some damage in the NFC playoffs? But I think we're in a good spot ahead of schedule at this point. Obviously still a lot of needed things to deal with in the offseason. It was cool that they could get Marshawn Lattimore in before the trade deadline, and eventually he'll get on the field. I think. I don't know if it'll be this weekend or not, but really it's a long play situation anyway. He's under contract for a few more seasons, so it's not like you just did this for this year, like some baseball rental kind of trade that they have in Major League Baseball. So I'm not sweating that as much as some people are, whether or not he's on the field in the next week or two or at all this season. But he's going to make that defense better when he does get there. I'm excited about that. But yeah, I mean, it's been good. I think this staff's shown a lot of smarts with the way they've coached the team. They've hidden some of the deficiencies well. They've obviously gotten their quarterback ready at a quick level, and he's that guy. I mean, I don't like to get into comparisons with other, guys we thought were franchise quarterbacks. But the thing I like the most about Jaden Daniels, besides the way he plays and how quickly he's picked up on things in the NFL, is just the guy's demeanor. And everybody told me this coming in from talking to people prior to the draft from LSU. Then the guy's a hard worker. He's about team. He's not like he's a Heisman winner, but he's not going to come off like a diva, and he's not like all about me and marketing himself, what have you. And he's really just wants to be a teammate and one of the guys and wants to get better and was like the first guy in, last guy out kind of stuff. And all that's been true from everybody I've talked to at the Commanders about him. So that's been really refreshing. I think they've handled him great. They didn't overly hype him up. They could have easily gone nuts in marketing, right? Like from day one, they could have just gone bonkers. I think we understand the guy who was here before ownership-wise would have done absolutely all that stuff and kind of given him too much too fast. But I think they have done it the proper way. And it's just encouraging to me to see the correct structure finally in the organization after 2.5 decades of having no structure in an organization to finally have structure in the organization as the way it should be. So, yeah, I mean, to me, like all this stuff's gravy. I would be disappointed if they didn't make the playoffs for sure. I think they will. But I think, again, this is a really, really good first year. And I consider this, by the way, I talk about it all the time. This is really Josh Harris's first year to be all in as the owner, right? I mean, he was doing stuff last year, but he got the team so late, couldn't put his fingerprints on it. Obviously, wasn't able to hire the GM yet, but now like with him and Adam Peters and the whole hierarchy they have there, and obviously with Quinn and the staff, you really can see what they're about and what they're invested in. And I think there is a structure in the organization and a mission that they're all kind of going in the same direction on, which is exciting.
Now, Scott, the Hail Mary play, right? I know pregame, right? I mean, before you guys are getting ready to air the postgame show, you kind of already got everything lined up, like what you're going to do, what you're going to talk about. How quick did the whole thing change when the Hail Mary play happens and, chaos ensues, bro?
So we're kind of a reactionary show. It's not like we're, stuck in like, hey, we have to talk about, we know that we're going to have locker room interviews. We don't know when they're going to happen. Like I'm throwing back to Bram in London and that kind of stuff. And we're going to play, the press conference, we're going to get the calls, blah, blah, blah. But like I literally, though, it's funny you say that because I really was writing down like 4 places I thought they lost the game, right? I'm like, this is where they blew this, couldn't take advantage of this, that, goofed around and found out, right? So to speak. I was going to clean it up for the radio. And my producer, the guy's an engineer, because we're at a restaurant in Reston every week, Craft House. And the radio broadcast is a good 8 to 10 seconds in front of the TVs. They're in the bar. And he's listening on the headset. And sometimes I'll listen ahead, if it's like a timing issue and we're about to get on or whatever. But usually those guys wrap up in the studio, so I don't have to do that. Or at halftime, I like to do it so I know when it's immediately halftime. So I'm hitting my timer to know, anyway, how much time I have for halftime. But that being said, our engineer that night, this guy Eric, he's the best. He's a really low key guy from the Caribbean. He's real chill, and he just says touchdown, like just real quietly, and he goes, "I'm sorry," and puts the headset down and looks at me, and I'm like, I just get up from writing. I'm like, what? I kind of like, something to you, the bad, like F you, kind of thinking he's messing with me. I just think it's a joke. And then I continue to write. Then I look up and I see this play is going on. See this play still going on. I see the play still going on. Then I'm looking at him like, okay, was he telling me something? Like, was he really not messing with me? And sure enough, obviously the play happens and the whole place goes bananas. The sports bar, people aren't even watching that game or turned to that game just for that one play. This one Bears fan was just wearing out these Washington fans. Just, like his life is over, right? I mean, he's like, people are just laughing at him, and he's just like, he can't believe what he just saw. So yeah, it was wild. And then me and Fred are jumping up high five, and Fred claims we hugged. I don't know about that. But maybe it happened, maybe it didn't. But it was wild because it did switch like that. Like the mood and just like the tone of like how the show was going to be. Like, we're gonna, because it was one of those games where like they should have buried this team. Yeah, because they did such a great job for 3 quarters on Caleb Williams and that offense. And you're like, God, you goofed around and let them let a team hang around. You're going to pay the price, and instead, they had to, Fred got mad at me because I said I feel like they stole it. And he's like, well, we didn't steal any more yards. I go, yeah, but we were dead, man. I said we were on life support, and literally that's why they call it a Hail Mary. Like literally, it's a Hail Mary.
Prayer. It's a prayer. Just speak to how often quickly stuff can change, man. Dee Middy, go ahead, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, I like where you're going with it, Scott, man, because I do love the content you putting out, man, on the radio and everything too. But two things I want to kind of rewind back to was the
Sure.
Marshawn Lattimore, the addition of Marshawn Lattimore, and the game against Pittsburgh, and also throw in the game against Baltimore. When I couple that together with the question I'm trying to ask, is
Sure.
basically, do you feel like, as far as the measuring stick where Washington is, because you and I almost had an identical outlook on the season as far as the 7-9 win window for the team this year. So if you had to put all that together, do you feel like this team is at a position, not only going into the playoffs, that they're going to be a formidable team for years to come?
Well, I think it could be. And again, just a lot of this is how do you handle, how do you draft? How do these guys grow? Can you stay healthy? Can you keep the core together? I mean, I think we also remember they got a ton of free agents coming up this offseason. Jeremy Chin's one of them. Luckily, Luvu signed for multiple years, but they did some. They've got some of their own guys to take care of this offseason too. But they're going to have a lot of cap space, which is good. Obviously, they're going to have to add some more pieces on that offense, but yeah, I mean, I think the two measuring stick games, you were competitive, but you couldn't finish, right? Like as you look at the Philly game just a few weeks ago, Pittsburgh game, same deal, and yeah, that Baltimore game as well. I think that's kind of my takeaways from that. Not to say they couldn't beat those guys on a different Sunday or what have you, but clearly, in the opportunities they had, they just couldn't finish those games. I think that's what I look at for them, and yeah, they are setting themselves up good. I think like even this season, like from where they were from week 1 to week 2 as a defense, I think the defense each week is playing better. I mean, last week, really AJ Brown was not much of the factor that he normally is against them, which was big. We saw Mikey Sanders-Skrill over on him at one point, which was incredible, giving up that size, but competing with him and stopping him in the red zone, that was huge. I thought that was certainly encouraging. And even the week before, I mean, some of the plays the Steelers made outside of the last where Williams gets by St. Just, I mean, the catch Pickens makes is incredible. I mean, that's just amazing. And the Fairmouth one's a complete blown coverage in the back end communication. But Fryermuth, I mean, was a blown coverage one or blown communication one. The Williams one's just that's on St. Just. But the other one, I mean, that Pickens catch is incredible. I mean, there was much more he could have done about that one. But I think they've defensively, even the secondary, the numbers have gotten better. They've gotten better, but they're still going to get tested every week, moving forward here. The quarterbacks, I was going to say going to get better, but they don't have Dak, which helps. They will get Hurts again. Obviously, Kirk and that offense can light it up at times, so they're struggling a little bit right now. And who knows what's going on in New Orleans by the time they get there. All of a sudden, they've kind of got a little oxygen in the season, but. Yeah, I think there's some positives there. And again, the pass rush, I was really worried about coming into the year, and it's been a lot better than I thought it would be. It's not just because they're like blitzing all the time. They're getting home. I mean, Fowler's been terrific. I mean, he's really been a nice addition there. And then, I think Farrell's done his job. Armstrong's been really solid, too, on the outside. And, the defensive tackles, I think, good to see Johnny Newton get more experience. I think that's certainly a positive situation. And the guys like Sheldon Day, who they brought in, Jalen, I got to forget his name is from 757 now. The kid from the Jets, he's played well too. I mean, he's like
Jalen
plug and play
Holmes.
guy. Jalen Holmes, thank you, Jalen Holmes. Oh, we interviewed him this offseason. Why would I remember his name? Anyway, he's played well too when given moments. So like all those guys, and I mean, you can understand all the hype behind Luvu too. So again, I think there's a lot of core pieces that are good here. It's just going to be up in Peters them to kind of form it a little bit tighter in the offseason, especially with some of the, the problem areas. Secondary looks like they solved one problem there, but I still think you can add to that area as well.
Yeah, you're listening right now to the Breaking Command podcast. We got our guest Scott Jackson this week to preview the Commanders Dallas Cowboys matchup, where the Cowboys lead the all-time series 78-48-2, but they only lead the series against the Commanders at 2-1. That's something that you need to realize. And so Scott, man, let me ask you, man, as we get
they
ready
never beat Washington football. No, actually, they did beat Washington football. I think they were 2-2.
As we get into this week's game, man, the Commanders 7-4 are hosting the 3-7 Dallas Cowboys at Northwest Stadium, who just came off a thumping of the Houston Texans. Vegas has us 10.5-point favorites. Wow. With a point total of 44.5 for this game. Commanders are the favorites. They're the second ranked offense going against the Cowboys' 22nd ranked defense. While the Cowboys bring Cooper Rush and the 23rd ranked offense against the 23rd ranked defense by the Commanders that has been fluctuating all season. Scott, first, man, I know you said we could throw out the records because the division matchups, that's how it goes. But truly, what are the Commanders going to have to do to kind of really set the tone and let them know, hey, we're for real. We're not to be trifled with, and we're going to beat the Cowboys. What do the Commanders have to do this Sunday to get the win at Northwest Field?
Well, I think running the ball obviously is the way to go after Dallas. Even last year when Dan Quinn was there, the year before, I mean, you want to run at them, run at their speed, and I think run at Parsons. I think they're going to do that with Brian Robinson, with working Eckler in there as well. I think you want to attack them there. Got to take care of the football, of course. I'd like to see Jaden get in a better rhythm this week. A little concerned. I know they're saying he's not injured, whatever the semantics are, and that's fine, but clearly, look, since that injury, he's had some games where the ball's been a little short, right?
Something is
different. He's different. He's not stepping into the throws. He's getting caught at the line of scrimmage when he's trying to get breakout on some scrambles as well. So, I mean, I want to see him kind of look fresher for one, and hopefully sharper. They talked about the lack of practice time and maybe being part of that, and that's fair. I know there's a lot of concern in our fan base. Oh my God, is this Cliff Kingsbury? This is what happens. Cliff falls down the cliff at the end of the year, in college and in pros and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, again, a couple of weeks ago against Pittsburgh, nobody's doing a whole lot against that defense. They did get 27 put up there. Granted, one of the TDs was a short field, but what have you, they're still were able to move the ball in different stretches of that football game. So I don't think that's quite. I'm not quite ready to go there yet. But look, they've had this extra time. I would expect a really good performance, a really good, clean performance from them. Competitive, from the jump. I would like to think of you get Dallas, put all the doubt in their brains right away. Don't give them any hope early. I think is the way you jump on them in this football game, and just make them just go, relive all the bad memories of the season. That's what you got to do. You don't want to give them any early life. So I hope they come out sharp and crisp right away, and look like the superior team and the healthier team, which they are. And that'd be good for them, because if they don't, then I think, hey, here's the other psychology of it is like, all right, what's going on here? You guys you're struggling now. Maybe things have been figured out and all that kind of stuff. But I'm confident they're going to have a good bounce back. I think the staff's going to be ready for this one. They've got a really good file on these guys. And again, Dallas is just they got a lot of injuries to them. That offensive line, which wasn't great anyway, now has injuries on top of it. And how are they running? I mean, can they run the ball? I mean, I know the Commanders' run defense can give up some plays and chunks, but I mean, that Dallas running game is not scaring anybody. I mean, right now, and then really it's CeeDee Lamb and nobody else. Although they'll get Cooks back this week potentially, which will help. But I still think, like I said, I think this Washington defense has done a really good job these last few weeks, kind of picking what they're going to take away from you. And I think in the case of Dallas, they're certainly going to key on trying to keep CD off the big stats.
This is the time of the year where if you're a good ball club, this is where you play the good football. You end it early. Like you said, man, in your point. You come out here and just don't give them no hope, man. Stomp the foot on their neck, bro. Like, get it done early. Make them give up. Like they gave up on Monday Night Football, man. Make them give up.
Exactly.
I'll definitely take Brian Robinson +3 anytime touchdowns this week. I'm going to do that. I'm pretty sure that number is is a good number. But yeah, definitely got to end it early, and I do like that point. Go ahead, Dee Middy.
Oh no, man. I think y'all you hit on something with that Brian Robinson points though, but
right.
But no, the thing I was just like really thinking about too when Scott was going over like the keys to the game this week, is who's on the offense? I just want to get Scott's take on this. On offense, is there anybody that you've seen thus far, outside of maybe like Noah Brown, that you think can probably be an X factor against this Dallas game if they're going to, have a clean game? Is there anybody like maybe like De'Ami Brown that may, score a touchdown or two this game coming up against Dallas?
Well, I think Ertz could really be a big part of it. If they get him some opportunities, I think the tight end position, even Dalton Schultz, who's kind of had a quiet season with the Texans, was a little bit more involved the other night than he had been this year. And if you notice, like CJ Stroud really spread the ball out, had a lot of different receivers involved in the football game. So I would think, again, like a lot of these Washington games, I mean, I think you're going to see Noah Brown get his fair shots, and probably draw a big PI at some point, right? Like he does every week for a chunk play. They got to certainly get McLaurin more involved. I mean, after the quiet week against Philadelphia, I would suspect that's going to happen. But, look, tight end is a big part of I think, this offense, and Ertz, and I think you'll see Eckler, get his fair share as he has in the passing game as well. But to me, it's like this is more of like impose your will, wear them down, Brian Robinson kind of, run them over kind of football game is what I would expect. And, maybe that'll open up some shots for Jaden downfield, and even maybe, to see Jaden, get them sleeping a little bit too on some keepers and get them around the end will be interesting to see too. But yeah, I'm just looking for cleaner, better efficiency from the offense, which, there's kind of been lacking, over these last few weeks. The Philadelphia game was obviously a complete grind, and it was weird before that fourth down call they went for and didn't get. I mean, they were actually moving the ball pretty good, throwing it downfield, and then they went run and got stoned twice, and then the bad snap, and then didn't get it. And after further review, I think they got a crappy spot on that Bates catch. It should have been a first down. It should have never been short yardage in the first place, which is really, again, I don't know how a multi-billion-dollar sports league continues to screw up yard markers on a consistent basis in every game every week, but they do.
Hey, Scott, you must have been watching some of the old episodes, bro, because I'd be griping about that all the time on every show that I'm on. You're a double-digit billion-dollar industry that will not use any tech to get the stuff right. And see, Scott, I was about to end the show, but now I'm on a tangent. Like, you will not invest in your product, and I get it. They want the human element there as well, but the human element is wrong in the most critical situations. Right. They're so inconsistent. If they were right more often, then it'll be fine. If in baseball, if balls and strikes were called a little more better, and it wasn't as glaring as it was, then you won't need any additional help. But the NFL in these spots where games are on the line, and forget, and I don't care what people say, we don't want to leave it up to the refs. Nah, sure. But if it goes down to the refs, it needs to be correct. That's the thing. So the fact that the NFL will not invest in trying to get this right is asinine. And like you said on that Bates play, where every view I saw clearly looks like a first down.
Past the line. Past the yard marker.
The Ertz catch in Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, against Pittsburgh,
So it's like,
that was another one.
So you have the ability to like get it done correct. Because see, my thing is, I don't even care if it goes against us, but the fact that we know for beyond a shadow of a doubt that it's correct, that's all I can. Right. That's what I want.
I'm in my 50s. I have a hard enough time seeing now. I got to have the Raiders on half the time. I'm not saying I certainly am not advocating for people my age, let alone these guys that are 10 years, 15 years older than me on the chain gangs, that go out there. and then the guys that are spotting the ball too, like just arbitrarily, like, oh, it was, like, are you serious? Like, no, I mean, like if you have the chip in the ball, and again, part of it too is money. Like the NFL, like they don't know the propriety of the technology. They don't want to do it. There's been a guy for years that had this laser first down thing. He used to come to Super Bowl week and everything, and was trying to get like patented and all this stuff, and it had it all going. But the NFL had meetings with him, but they never bought it from him because they wouldn't own it. And it was like it's a whole thing. It's sketchy, man. It's just like certain people can do the certain helmet providers and all these other things. They want to be in business with you, but they also want to have a good business deal with you. And instead of getting it right, I mean, tennis is the best. Hawkeye, nobody questions it. I mean, John McEnroe would have been a nobody had they had Hawkeye when he was playing because he had nothing to bitch about. Baseball is gutless because they could have done it like they did it in AAA down here. I saw it for a year. They had the IFBs and like two out of the 3 games. They would call balls and strikes from the robo-umps. No, there's no arguments. You could challenge or whatever, and you get another look at it. Everybody moved on with their lives because the technology is correct and the pitch tracker. But then they went, no, we can't do that because, we want pitch framing and all this bull crap. No, what it is the umpires union is greater than the baseball union. So therefore, they're not going to fight the umpires union, and they're just going to let this continue to happen. And we're going to go to replay challenges in baseball and stuff instead of like, I don't know, getting like the balls and strikes correct every time. We're just going to settle for, we hope a guy can get it like 90% of the time right,
And you can look at it on a granular level for regular people who are not sports fans. Look at it on a regular level. Yeah. You go to the grocery store, they have self-checkout. Self-checkout is in most cases not ran by itself. There's still somebody over there.
Sure,
just in case the system acts up or you're stealing, like there's somebody there. So we're
not getting rid of the refs. That's the thing. We're not getting rid of the refs. We're just making their job easier.
There you go.
And as it is, there's already that New York interference every once in a while. You'll see it at some weird moments like, oh, we just like picked up the flag because somebody told us in New York that's an awful call. You better fix it. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's
See,
frustrating. But again, when these guys are trying to move around players to spot the ball, I'm like, are you sure you had the spot right? Like you're looking down the line and then everybody's fighting in these pileups. You don't know where the hell it is. I mean, come on.
man, you know
Exactly.
what? You know what, Scott? We getting ready to wrap this up because I know you're pressed for time. But bruh, I'm gonna have to bring you back when I have my whole episode about the substitution rule because
Oh,
I
good. All right.
am,
I hate
I
that.
am. Oh my
They're running
God,
timeout on purpose. Yeah, the
Scott, I
defense.
cannot tell you how frustrating it
Yes.
Oh,
is for me
I have a
with the
text thread
substitution rule.
about it.
Like
you know what?
literally,
The college game is so much for the most part is so much better at handling it. The referees will restart the clock a lot more. I've noticed because the school that I went to, ODU, I go to a lot of their football games. They
ODU.
run no huddle. They do this all the time, and they have the substituting, and they're good at it. The other teams are good at it. But in the NFL, it's either a laziness thing, which could be, or it's also a gamesmanship thing. And just some crews they're not used to it, like the college and I would say high school is probably the same way, are used to the subbing, right? Like they're better at it. Whereas the NFL, they're missing out here, and these teams are running the clock down and it's screwing the offense over. So there's really no advantage to going fast.
Right.
It's
Man,
terrible.
feel like three old men yelling at clouds, but it's okay.
Exactly. Exactly.
The subscribers know why they're here, so it's no problem.
Exactly.
Scott, before we get out of here, look and to this Cowboys game, I don't even care,
Yeah.
man. We're the better team. We should win going
We
away,
should.
and
Absolutely.
I'm not gonna spend no much time analyzing that because we're just gonna go
Yep.
out there and get the job done. So, Scott, before we get out of here, man, tell everybody what you got going on. Tell everybody where they can find you,
Yeah.
and just sell yourself a little bit, brother.
Appreciate it. Priority Auto Sports Radio. I think I have the shirt on you. 94.1, 757. We've got an app. You can listen to us daily, 3 to 7. At Jackson Sports, as you guys mentioned so nicely on the way in on the X. After the Commanders game and at halftime of the Commanders game with Fred Smoot on Big 100 in DC and all around the iHeart app. Hopefully you can get that in wherever you may be. And if not, I believe SiriusXM has all the NFL pre and post games now, which is really cool if you're a subscriber to SiriusXM on their app as well. So on the home team channel. So check us out there. We're there on Sundays. And yeah, you mentioned ODU men's basketball, ESPN Plus. DC's own Mike Jones, former DeMatha head coach, is our first year coach. That's right, our first year coach. And Mike and I go way back. I was here when he was playing. I was just graduating when I was maybe a year or two in front of him, and saw a lot of his career as a player. So that's really cool now. Talking to him weekly and daily and watching basketball with him. So I'm excited for what he can do here. But yeah, we do all those games on ESPN Plus as well.
Scott, before you get out of here, we have to have our co-host Dee Middy have his ceremony and provide you with your flowers. So, Dee Middy,
Okay, thank you.
after you.
So for you, Scott, the main thing I truly love about you, man, because it's something me and you share. It's your voice, how you provide your clarity and how you speak and everything you do. And it's easy to not only just understand the context of what you're saying, but this is like a breath of fresh air when we listen to you, for one. Two, I've been a fan of yours. I'm gonna be honest. This is just me being really transparent. Ever since I started listening to the DC radio, the DMV radio, you have been number one on my list because every time you say something, it's like me and you connect. Like I say, with the 7-9 wins, like
Yeah.
me and you, if for some reason
Yeah.
I can always agree with what you're saying. And you may not even remember. I called in and it was like a 2018, whatever. It was a few years back. I called in on a post game show and me and you kind of vibe. I was playing Uno with my kids, and you was like, I think you lost because you on the phone or something like that. You made a joke about it. And I was like, man, this guy here is like really down to earth and cool. And I always wanted to meet you, brother. And I appreciate you for joining the show, man. You're awesome. You're number one in my heart.
That's very cool, man. I appreciate that. Well, I appreciate you guys listening, and it's fun, And it's not like a taxing, job that, oh my God, I'm like, breaking my back for. But it is a lot of fun, and I'm lucky. I understand that to work in the toy department of life. With something I'd be doing this even if I wasn't doing this. I'd be watching all these games and caring about them. So the fact that I could do this and provide it, and I'm glad people do still listen. So that's good, man. I appreciate that.
Awesome, Scott. We thank you for being here, man. And everybody that's checked out this episode, make sure you like, subscribe, and follow Scott along with the show everywhere else. And we will catch you back on another episode of Breaking Command, a D&D football podcast, after we celebrate another victory over the Dallas Cowboys. Ladies and gentlemen, Peace and love. Be blessed.